Yeah, so it seems to be easy for NATO, for Biden to march us towards a war with Russia when it's not near our soil. It's not going to be fought on American soil. It's going to be over there. You're talking about launching missiles deep into Russia. Russia would be looking at potentially attacking Europe. Um, so that whenever we can get into a war, as long as it's somewhere else, right? That's what we've seen all throughout the Middle East. It was just
Yeah.
somewhere else, so it doesn't really affect us over here. Um, what are the chances you think that it will escalate to a point where we're actually attacked here on US soil? What would that look like? Would that mean China has to get involved or North Korea has to get involved and they're launching their missiles at us on the West Coast here where I am, which is very scary? Or, how do you see that playing out? Because it seems to me that if I were in Russia's position, for example, if I were looking at it from their strategic vantage point, I would think the only way to prevent this is to make the other side also fear losing something serious. It seems to be the
Yeah.
only way to stop the escalation.
Yeah, your analysis is pretty good. Look, Great Britain has resisted invasion since the Norman Conquest, which was in 1050 or so, 1047, and even Germany under Hitler could not cross 21 miles of English Strait. People have actually swum the good swimmers go across the English Channel. There are 5,000 miles between us and Russia. There are 6,000 miles between us and China. The only possibility, the only threat that we face from overseas is a thermonuclear threat. It is a genuine threat because I know there are people in the Pentagon and elsewhere who think, well, if we launched a surprise attack, we could knock out all of their missiles and so forth. The problem is they now have hypersonic missiles that, on a moment's notice, can fly and they can actually hit places in the United States, hit places in Europe. There is no defense because they fly at such a speed that there's nothing that can catch up with them. Also, we have Russian submarines with carrying, over 100 missiles, not missiles, but 100 warheads, and they can rain down destruction on New York, on San Francisco, on Washington D.C., and of course all of the capitals of Europe. They don't want to do this, but we're pushing them further and further. And what's happening now is you've got a lot of very smart people in the Pentagon, in the State Department, and in London, NATO, but they're acting like lemmings, where there's a feeling like, well, we can do this extraordinarily reckless thing, but Joe and Sam and Kathy, they think it's okay, so I guess everything is fine. And meanwhile, we're charging across a cliff like the lemmings, everybody thinking, well, everybody else says it's okay, and the next thing you're over the cliff. We have never faced a threat of thermonuclear war that ever compared to this. And I'm including, I lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis. I actually saw troops moving through the state of Florida to go and invade Cuba. So I know what it is. And I used to cover myself when I was a little boy. We'd jump under the desks and we'd cover ourselves. What we're faced today, the American people are totally unaware of it. It is it is 100 times more dangerous than what we encountered back when I was a little boy. It's genuine, and we keep pushing the line further and further.
What do you think the agenda is? Who is behind wanting to push this line where if this has been decided, as you say, a decade ago, 2014, they were really deciding on, okay, we're going to march ourselves towards a war with Russia. What would be the reason for it?
I think there's a desire to weaken Russia. Um, I think there are certain global interests. There are global oligarchs who look with tremendous interest at the enormous wealth of Russia. Russia has natural resources that are beyond our wildest dreams. Um, Few people are aware of the enormous exports of natural resources. They're the number one exporter of lumber, of wheat, of fertilizer, of natural gas. They're huge exporters of oil, of aluminum. It just goes on, cobalt, manganese, all sorts of things. And there are people who say, look, if I could somehow get control or get a big interest in the oil or the gas or the lumber, I could be a trillionaire. And I think some of those people have an influence over the American government. It's the American people get nothing. We get absolutely nothing from this. We get the bills. We're the bill payers, but we get nothing out of it. It doesn't serve any legitimate national interest of the United States to be involved in the war.
Right.